Dan B already starting off strong. What is up, everyone? What is going on? How are we doing? How are we doing? It's hump day, my dudes and dudettes. It is hump day. Hump day. Let me see something real quick. Oh boy. Man, probably didn't do it. Nope. Oh, shoot. Well, that's no bueno. Oh, well. Either way. All right. We're still good. No worries there. Game should be starting up pretty soon. We are doing our first live for the Grand Rapids Griffins in their playoff push against the Manitoba Moose. Should be interesting to do this one, chatters. All right, let's kick it off where we last started. Not in the Red Wings fashion, but who scores first? Who scores first? Griffins or Moose? Yo, what's up, Brian? What is up? What is up? Who's Brenton? Hi, Brenton Hesselink? I don't know who that is. Who's Brian? Or Brenton? Who's Brenton? All right, chatters. All right, chatters. Let's get this game underway. They're running late. It's 7:08. I think our good friend Haskey might be making an appearance today. We're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. I think Haskey shows up. Let's see if Haskey shows up. Should be a pretty good game on our hands. Should be a pretty good game. They're doing the national anthem right now. Doing the national anthem. I'm just now realizing that my mic was muted this whole time. Can you guys hear me now? All right, we got Dan B. The Detroit Larkins. Oh boy. Brianna, I don't want to say it wrong, but it says, hi, Brenton Hesselink. I don't know who Brenton is. Is that you? What's going on? What's going on, chatters? How are we doing? It is the Grand Rapids Griffins versus the Manitoba Moose for Game 3 of the American Hockey League playoffs. And we're starting it off where we left off. Who scores first, Griffins or the Moose? Looks like everyone's choosing the Griffins. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Should be picking the Griffins. Canadian anthem. Canadian anthem. There we go. That's done. That's out of the way. Got some kiddos singing the national anthem. There he is. There he is. Yeah, come join when you can, buddy. Come join when you can, Haskey. Big game. Big game. Big game. I'm going to raise up my desk a little bit more so that way I don't have to hunch over to look at the screen. Huge news for Detroit fans. PWHL team coming your way starting this year. That's huge. That's huge. I'm really hoping they named the team the Vipers. I hope it's the Vipers, please. or Falcons, something that has ties to Detroit already. I have this strange feeling that they're going to pick a name that we're unfamiliar with, like Engines or something for Motor City. Or they just go with Motor City, Detroit Motor City, Detroit Wheels or something kind of lame like that. I could definitely see that. All right, anthems are done. There's some girl out on the ice pushing a dolly around. I don't know what's on this dolly though. I am confusion. There's puss on the ice. There's an octopus on the ice. There was puss on the ice. Play by play may be a little choppy. I am unfamiliar with numbers. Let's see. Grand Rapids, Griffins, roster. Let's do that. Let's see. Seager 11, Draper 12, Dries 15, Kiskinen 16, Leonard 19, Beecher is 25, James is 26, Niger 28, Danielson ain't playing 34. That's a lot of numbers I got to remember. I should be able to know some of these numbers. I'll do my best. I will do my beast. Puck is dropped. Manitoba wins that faceoff. They dump it in deep in the Griffin zone. Griffins get that. Pushing it up the boards. They do a good job getting that puck out of their zone. Nope. Gets back into the Griffin zone. Back behind the goaltender. Postava. Back in net. Third straight game of the playoffs. Had a shutout in game 2. Griffins in the Manitoba zone. Manitoba able to get that puck. They can't get it out. Griffins keep it in. They're down low with it. Shot on net. Good save there from the Moose goaltender. Moose chipped that out. Gets into the Griffins zone. Griffins collect that at their blue line. Moving the puck around. Looking for that long pass, and that's going to go for icing. One shot. Time is ticking down. Time is ticking down. I forgot that they don't stop the clock. Do they just not stop the clock? Save there, Postava. All right, time is stopped now. Puck goes wide, circles around behind the net, along the boards. Manitoba able to pick that up. Working the Griffins here, using the boards to their advantage. Good defensive work there from the Griffins. They're able to get that puck. They get it down. That looks like that's going to go for no icing. Yeah, that's icing. Manitoba wins that faceoff in the Griffin zone. Manitoba in the corner. Big hit in the corner. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I got booted from Haskey's account. Hold on, guys. I lost the feed. I lost the feed. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I lost the feed. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Hold on. Your boy's trying to figure it out. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Your boy might be able. Yes, your boy's got it. All right, your boy's got it back up. Your boy's got it back up. If it'll let me open it. There we go. All right, boys got it. Griffins, Manitoba zone, shot gets blocked. High slot. Griffins still able to maintain it though. High slot in center. Shot goes wide. Griffins pushing the puck back up to the blue line. Walking the blue line, Lombardi. Good movements here. Shot. Good save there from the Moose. ASP with it. ASP back to the blue line. Clap bomb. That gets blocked. ASP picks it back up. Griffin slot. Shot gets saved. Griffins still with the puck. Griffins all over this one in the Manitoba zone. Try centering that one out in front. That goes wide. Gets deflected. ASP picks it back up, though. Griffin's doing a really good job on this shift. Back to ASP. And that puck goes over his stick. Griffin's got to go ahead and collect that puck. Postava gets that. Gives it to his defenseman. Manitoba gets a good change. Manitoba looking to create some magic in the Griffin zone. Ooh, puck hits a Griffins player right in the ankle and he goes down. Manitoba puts the puck out in front. No Moose player there. Moose at the blue line with it. Shot. Gets blocked. Goes wide. Griffins working it in the corner. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, I got my feedback. There we go. Griffins chip it out for a change. Manitoba quickly gets it back into the Griffins side. Good save there from Postava. Griffins pick up that loose puck. Good breakout here. A little risky out in front, though. Griffins still able to get it into Manitoba zone. They beat the goaltender to get that puck with some speed. Griffins able to maintain the zone. Down in the corner. Manitoba gets it out. Ooh, Manitoba hits the Griffins player, the defenseman, hard into the boards. I think that's Gustafson. Manitoba back in the Griffin zone. Puck into the corner. Manitoba picks it up. They put it at the blue line. Shot. Think that gets the Postava. That might have been blocked. Shot again. Gets blocked again. Goes wide. Griffins able to get it out. Manitoba picks it up at the red line. Manitoba dumps it in the Griffin zone. Griffins in the corner. Pick it up. Once more behind the net. Player picks up that puck. Good transition play here from the Griffins. Gets pickpocketed, though, at Manitoba's blue line. Manitoba trying to quickly get into the Griffin zone. Griffins behind their net now. Trying to get this out. And they do. Griffins back in Manitoba's zone. Dominic Shine trying to protect that puck. Trying to drive the net one-handed. Couldn't get there. Griffins shot. And that's going to be a save from the Manitoba Moose. Good opportunity so far from the Grand Rapids Griffins, 5-on-5. No, you're good, Husky. I got it. We're all good, buddy. Face off, Manitoba zone. Griffins win that face off. Shot at the blue line. Gets blocked a little bit. Manitoba's goaltender plays the puck. Goes all the way down for an icing. Griffins win that faceoff. Manitoba zone. Tried going on the side of the goal. Couldn't make it happen. Went behind the net. In the slot. To Omisto. Goes high. Goalie saves that. 0-0. 13:54 remaining in this first period as well. Griffins looking good so far. Shots are 4-1. Griffins. Beat the Moose. 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 It's what keeps popping up on my screen right now. I don't know how many times I'm supposed to say this, but I wanted to stop before it made me look silly, and I kept saying it when it was over. Does that ever happen to you guys? You guys are at a sporting event, you're doing the channel long, and all of a sudden it stops and you're the last one doing it. It's not the greatest feeling ever. Shots in favor to Grand Rapids 5-1, not 4-1. Face off in Manitoba zone. Manitoba wins that face off. They get it out. Griffins recover that puck. Trying to make that push. They get it in the zone 2-on-1 here. Good pass across the crease. Couldn't connect on it. Manitoba quickly pushing up the ice to get it back. They dump it in. Griffins collect that loose puck. Push it up the boards. Trying to make that outlet pass. They do. Center ice. 3-on-2. Griffins. Pass back. Back to the player. Back out. Shot. That gets blocked. Griffins player down and injured a little bit. It looks like Griffins. Good move there. Shot. That gets blocked, and that goes up high and wide. This Mazer Lombardi MBN line buzzing so far tonight. Looking really good. Dan B, I don't recommend trying to beat up a moose. Yeah, that moose might beat you up first, honestly. That moose might get you. That moose might get you. Face off in the Manitoba zone. Griffin's doing a really good job so far this first period. Manitoba wins that face off. Griffin's able to keep it alive. They keep that puck in. ASP down. They try going out in center again. Shot gets blocked, or pass gets blocked. Manitoba picks up that puck. They're flying up with some speed. Throws it through the slot. No one there to pick it up. They tried putting it going to the side of the net there. Couldn't quite handle that one. Puck in the corner. Manitoba able to pick up that loose puck, keeping it in the Griffin zone. Behind the net, down low. Pushing it up to the blue line. Shot gets deflected. Griffins pick up that puck. Griffins dumping it down. They do. Looking for a good line change there. Griffin's doing a really good job smothering the Manitoba Moose here tonight so far in this game. Now allowing them to get set. They're getting them in their zone, but they're stopping them. They're playing a heavy, heavy game right now. Face off in the Griffin zone. Manitoba still has that puck. Puck goes a little wide out in front. They play it around the boards. They're trying to push it up to the blue line. They can't get it there. Goes over. Manitoba gets that loose puck, though. Manitoba behind their net. Looking to break out. Again, Griffins. Ooh, big hip check there. Griffins doing such a good job at smothering the Manitoba Moose. Ooh, big hit along the boards. Griffins playing a real heavy game this game. Game 3 of the American Hockey League playoffs. Face off, Manitoba zone. Griffins win that face off. Gustafson, good move there. Those offensive instincts are really kicking in for him. Shot. Good save there. Griffin's getting some good opportunities here. Eventually, that puck should trickle in. Manitoba Moose goaltender standing on his head for his team. Griffins enter that zone again. Good slick move there. Trying to break the defenders. Both teams going for a change. Manitoba with the puck behind their net. Long pass up the middle. Goes deep into the Griffin zone. Pass was touched. Griffins looking to make a move here. Manitoba getting into the Griffin zone. Manitoba. Shoot that puck. Rims it all the way around the boards. Shot. Good save there by Postava. Long shot. Griffins send it down into Manitoba zone. Gets behind the net. Manitoba picks up that puck. They're trying to get it out. They do. Griffins with the puck in their own zone. They send it in. Manitoba back with the puck. They give up that puck at the blue line. They get it back, though. Griffins, good pressure there. Griffins, get that puck into the Manitoba zone. Manitoba back with it. Gave that puck at center ice. Griffins, penalty drawn. 6-on-5 right now. Delayed penalty. Good move there at the blue line. Good pass at center. Pass. Shot. All out in front. The Griffins score. Ryklowski with the first goal for the Grand Rapids Griffins. There we go, everyone. There we go. Look at that. Let's go, chatters. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go, chatters. Huge goal for the Grand Rapids Griffins. Huge goal for the Grand Rapids Griffins right there. Griffins leading in the first period. Delayed penalty. Griffins take advantage. Manitoba got to be feeling the pressure now. And we're going to go for a TV timeout, it looks like. TV timeout, technically, I guess it would be for the NHL. I don't know how that works for the AHL, but I would consider this a TV timeout. Shoveling some ice, some snow. If you are just now joining us, the Grand Rapids Griffins just scored. It is 1-0 against the Manitoba Moose. Griffins are leading in shots 9-3 as well. 7:49 remaining in this period. This guy with a mullet is just downing this beer. Waterfall in it. Oh my goodness. Now that is talent. Now that is talent from that man. Griffins with the puck back in Manitoba zone. Manitoba getting that loose puck out. Griffins pick up that loose puck, though. They send it back in. Sending it along the boards all the way around. Griffins get that puck. That hits the side of the net, bounces. Manitoba picks it up. Manitoba enters the zone. Shot. It gets blocked. Rebound. Good save, Postava. Manitoba back in the Griffin zone. Griffins, good pressure once again. Really shutting them down. Griffin's able to get that puck out. They send it in deep. Manitoba there first. They're able to get that puck out, trying to at least. They can't. Good pressure there from the Griffins. They get that puck at the corner. Shot. That gets blocked. Deflected. Griffin's able to pick up the loose puck. They whip it around the boards. Griffins save that. Good pass at the blue line. Shot. That's going to get eaten up from the Manitoba Moose goalie. Dan B, that was really impressive beer drinking. Yes, that was very impressive. Talent I wish I had that I will never gain. It's very unfortunate. Only a few select can do something that impressive. Shots in favor to Griffins, 10-4. Griffin's doing a really good job at pressuring the Moose and putting shots on the net. Griffins get that puck into the Manitoba zone. Moose able to clear that out. Griffins pick up that loose puck. Put that at center ice. They dump it back in. Going in after it. Nygaard working his man hard. Out in front of the net. Griffin's with it still. Out in front. Good save there. Manitoba Moose. Nygaard playing that hard net front presence. Griffins keep that puck in. Manitoba picks it up though, and they get it out. That's going to go for icing. It's going back to Manitoba zone. Manitoba wins that faceoff. They get it out of their zone. Griffins doing such a good job at getting the pressure on Manitoba. Making them claustrophobic. Not being able to move that puck. Griffins, you can tell, are a step ahead of them. Manitoba gets it in the Griffins deep. Good board battle here. Pass from Manitoba gets to the Griffins. Griffins dump it down. Good job from Shine. Trying to get that puck. Griffin shot. Oh, wide open net. And they miss. Dominic Shine with a wide open net and completely misses that. Kind of takes a cross check to the face, it looked like, but good opportunity there for the Griffins. Manitoba escape scot-free, luckily. Still 1-0 game. Shot goes deflected wide. Shot, Manitoba. Good save there, Postava. TV timeout. TV timeout. Ice. What's up, Ice? My dad is at the game right now. That's pretty cool. How come your dad didn't take you? Dan B. I've only seen the Griffins play in Hamilton when they had the Bulldogs. Nice. Yeah, I've only been to a couple Grand Rapids Griffins games myself. And I lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan for like 4 or 5 years. I had the opportunity to go see them win the Calder Cup back in 2013. Whenever that time was. No, it would have been 2018. 2018. 2018, I think it was 2018 or 2017. I had the opportunity to go see them win the Calder Cup, and I said, no, I'll go see it for game 7. And it didn't go to game 7. They won game 6. So I missed that. Manitoba just cannot do anything with the puck. Griffins back into the Manitoba zone, whipping around the boards, trying to do a double take on that. They can't. Somehow gets along to the other boards, though. No one able to pick up that puck. Manitoba making a push up ice. Pass there out into center. Oh, shot. Gets blocked. Griffins pick up that loose puck. They send it down. Good dump. Both teams will take a change. I remember I saw the legendary Jakob Kindle play for the Griffins. Legendary Jakob Kindle. I saw Carey Price win the Calder Cup for Hamilton when I was like 13. That's actually really freaking cool. That's actually really cool. Griffins able to get that puck out of their zone, trying to make that push. Manitoba did a good job there, disrupting that at the blue line. Manitoba with that puck. Good job by the Griffins, disrupting that. Griffins enter the zone, trying to work it here. Battle in the corner, Manitoba zone. They pick up the puck. Manitoba trying to get it out. Griffins just doing such a good job on pressure. Not giving Manitoba anything, even in their own zone. This is exactly how you would want to see the Detroit Red Wings play. Subban was on the team too, I think. Manitoba, shot. That gets blocked. Shot again. That one gets blocked too. Manitoba picks that up at the blue line. Put it off the boards. That gets deflected, goes over top of the goal. Manitoba picks up that puck, though. That gets deflected. Shot goes wide. And that puck goes out of the Griffin zone. Griffins can do a couple changes here. They do. Griffins pushing up. They get in it deep into the Moose zone. Moose pick up that puck. They're making that push. Good move there from Manitoba. Out in front and center between the legs. Good disruption there from the Griffins. Manitoba's, though, still has possession. Shot. That gets blocked. They get that out of their zone. Good dump there. Manitoba gets that puck back, though. They dump it in. Griffins trying to work that out. Manitoba keeping that in. Griffins in Manitoba zone. Quick little line change before this period comes to a close. 40 seconds remaining. 40 seconds remaining. Corner board battle. It's behind the net. Manitoba can't get that out. Griffins pick up that puck. Misplay there from the Griffins. Manitoba able to get it out. Griffins dump it back down. That's going to be icing. But that should do it for the period. That should do it for the period. And we are going into intermission. That is the first period. Griffins leading 1-0 after the first. W, huge. Shots in favor are to the Griffins, 11-6. And leading 1 after 1. I might go to Grand Rapids Friday after work to watch the game live. Never been to a game there. Only about an hour drive to get there. Brand new, do it. Yeah, why the frick not? Welcome back, buddy. Glad to see you again, and you as well, Dan B, and everyone else who is joining us. If you are familiar with the live streams, it's so good to see you guys once again. Brand new, you changed your profile picture. That's why I didn't recognize you at first. I always recognize the name, but that profile picture caught me off guard, dog. Not gonna lie. Dan B, I saw Subban play in the OHL in his draft year, and he was an absolute beast. Amazing how he fell to the second round. Something about hockey general managers, they don't like a man with a good personality. Brand new. Montreal just scored on the power play, 2-1 Buffalo nearing the end of the first. Nice, huge. Yeah. Who do you guys want to win that? I want Buffalo to win. Honestly, looking at it, the Habs really only won because Hedman wasn't playing. Let's be real. Let's be real. Come on. Let's be real. Tampa should have won that game 7. They didn't. They folded. It is what it is. Larkin to Winnipeg for 8th overall pick and Braden Yeager. Would you do it? Probably not. No. I'd ask for a little bit more. You could probably get a little bit more. If you gave me 8th and then another first round pick with Yeager, yeah. I don't think that's asking for too much. I'm trying to be realistic, obviously, with that ask. I think if you added another first, I think that gets it done. Jaeger's Eiserman type and right-handed center they really need. They got Danielson, who's a right-handed center. You think Jaeger's going to be better than Danielson? The issue is that I don't think the 8th overall pick or Jaeger would be center caliber to Larkin's status. Not that Larkin's like cream of the crop, obviously, but the return would be not obviously what you're getting out of that, but the potential of getting a top 3 pick in the draft if you were to trade Larkin. Like that's how I would look at it as. You want to get as much back if you do end up trading Larkin, if it comes down to that. You gotta take what you can get, but I think you kind of look at it from the the perspective of what do you get out of the draft, not from the picks that you're getting, but with your own picks. You know, if you can get your own pick to be a top 3 pick, then great, but Vigo Borg. See, I haven't really looked at the draft. Let's check out some mock drafts. Let's see. This Bjork guy is a center. Let's check out his draft or his elite prospects profile. He's a small fry. He's 5'10", 172 pounds, shoots right. On the SHL this season, he had 6 goals, 9 assists for 15 points in 42 games played. And in 3 playoff games, he put up 3 points. Bjork. It's a little small for a center. A little small for center. But that's the issue, Dan, is that like you might get a lottery pick. Like the might. I try not to look at the recency bias, but like looking at the Red Wings draft history, that not once have they ever moved up. They have fallen so far back so many times or stayed put that like the bet I don't think really is like I just would not bet that the Red Wings would move up. Like I would bet more like it would be more likely that they move back more than they move up. Just based on past history, obviously, Dan. I have a small wager on Buffalo making it to the Cup Finals. I hope they do it. I mean, I think Buffalo can beat Montreal. I don't think Buffalo can beat the Canes. I mean, at 8th pick, I mean, who else? See, this is the issue. Like, I haven't really looked at the drafts, so like draft prospects. Is there any good like left-handed defenseman available? Big left-handed defenseman. What about this Albert Smits guy? Albert Smits. What about this guy? Because the Wings have like no one on left-handed D. Absolutely no one. He's Latvian. 6'3", 205 pounds, 18 years old. Plays in the Liga, and then went to the DEL on loan. But in the Liga, he put up 13 points in 38 games. He was only a -3. And then in the DEL playoffs, he put up 6 points in 11 games as a defenseman. I'd take a crack at that guy if in your hypothetical trade scenario. Let's see. What about this Carson Carroll's guy? What's this guy all about? Carson Carroll's left-handed defenseman. 6'2", 194 pounds, shoots left. Yeah, if I had the 8th overall pick, if this guy was still on the board, I'd be taking this Carson guy. Carson Carroll's. That's who I would be targeting personally. I think we're good on the forwards. Because who do we got outside of Edmondson and Albert Johansson? We have no one on that left-handed D side. We have absolutely no one. Wallander, Booyum. Do we have hopes in those guys? Albert Smith says Iserman type huge. Moved away from home like young, like Casper. Yeah, MBN to play hockey. Yeah, meet defenseman who to like number 3 probably won't be there. I think it comes down to because there's some really good defensemen. There's like good right-handed shooters in this draft, isn't there? Yeah, there's Verhoff, there's Reed. This Tynan Lawrence guy, I saw you mention his name earlier, Dan. Jesus, now my computer's. Now my PC is running slow. Great. Oh my God. Elite Prospects just is like doomed to your computer. And I have a pretty fast computer too. Yeah, this Lawrence kid, 6 foot, plays center, shoots left. He got to play in the USHL and in the NCAA. How does that happen? Played for Boston University, 7 points in 18 games, but USHL 17 points in 13 games. Huh. I don't think they spent enough years in the bottom 3. No, we talked. Yeah, I kind of like brought that up with Michael yesterday, right? I think I mentioned that, but no, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it was that year that if we didn't get Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane, we would have stayed in the bottom 3. Iserman like saw the opportunities, like, hey, like, would you want to trade for Alex DeBrincat? He really wants to come play for Detroit. As a general manager, you can't say no to that. And then Patrick Kane, like, yeah, you're gonna try and go get Patrick Kane. It kind of goes back to all that. In hindsight, I probably would change it. I don't know. I don't know. It's a whole bunch of different things, but really relying on Booyam or Johansson to be solid number 2 or Wallander long shot. Well, it really surprised me when Iserman said Wallander is going to fight for a spot. If Booyam, Booyam's going to be in Grand Rapids again next year. That injury really set him back. He essentially missed a whole entire year. I think they have to take a forward though if they get back in the first round. They have to take a forward? Why do you think that? Like, when I envisioned the Iser plan, I thought he would take a high skill center forward in the top 10 or 5, and that would be the final touch to I just don't think you're gonna get that type of center in this draft. Even the people that we mentioned at center or the names that you mentioned, Dan, to be honest, I don't think that we would be seeing them for another 2 to 3 years. And they wouldn't even be high impact then. The rebuild is lacking a high skill center. No, 100%. You hope that's either Casper or Danielson, but they're gonna. I mean, if Steve Yzerman, I said this, if Steve Yzerman doesn't go out and get one, you have to get someone who's the same caliber of Larkin or better. You have to. You absolutely have to. You're not gonna get that in the draft. You're not. Like, you're just not, unless you get a top 3 pick. You're not gonna get a center that's Larkin caliber or better. Unless somehow you get super lucky, like Dallas and Wyatt Johnston. I'm not sitting here saying that it's impossible, It's obviously possible. We haven't seen what Max Plant, we haven't seen Carter Bear. I don't think those guys are going to play center. They can play center, but I don't think they will. I also mentioned that. True, but I think if you pick in the top 10, the forwards should be in the NHL in a year or two. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be high impact right away where maybe you're expecting 40 to 60 points. I mean, what's the difference between doing it in, let's say, everything you say comes to fruition? What's the difference between this guy at number 8 or pick 10, or if they get in somehow and they select at 13 to 16, whatever it is? What's the difference between this draft pick and all the other draft picks that they've made? What, are you serious? What is going on here? Dude, come on. There we go. Yeah, but Porter Martone is also a winger that has a particular style of game. Like our Porter Martone is NBN. So you're making that comparable. I don't see a reason why you would be trying to get into the first round in this year's draft, to be honest. I think that's particularly a reason why Steve Eisenman was willing to trade the pick. Even if it is at pick 15. There's a reason why Steve was okay with letting go of that first round pick. I see no reason for us to try and get back into the first round of the draft. Eiserman needs to swing on a guy like Mitchkov or Demidov or Roger McQueen. What do you mean swing on them? On a guy like Mitchkov or Demidov or Roger McQueen. Yeah, but those guys weren't swings. No, no, I don't think any of those three guys were swings. Roger McQueen, I would say he was the most swing guy because he had that injury, right? Wasn't Roger McQueen the guy who had that injury that like missed a decent amount of his season? I don't think there are any of those type of risky players in the top 10 though. Like there's a reason why they're in the top 10 because they're good. I don't think those types of risks exist. in the top 10. I want a guy with 100-point potential. We all, well, Dan, yeah, we all want that, but like that's so, dude, that's so hard to predict, Dan. You never know what you're gonna get out of these guys. It's you just never know. Philip Zadina could have put Philip Zadina was potentially a 100-point guy. Not really, probably not, but maybe more like 80-point, maybe 40 goal scorer. Look how that turned out. You just never know. Damn, this stream sucks. All right, there we go. Dan B, you want to take a guess on who I think that they probably said was a boomer bust draft pick that was in the top 10? Michael Rasmussen. A high skill. I think I know what you mean by high skill guy, Dan. But are you talking about someone who's particularly high skilled in one or two facets of the game rather than being an all round great player? Like that Danielson's of those caliber? Like, is that what you mean by high skill guy? Someone who's really excellent at one or two things rather than all five things? Or by high skill, do you just mean, yeah, he's got sick hands? I mean, I haven't looked at Savoy's stats deeply at all, so I can't really comment on that. But Savoy is on the same team with McDavid and Draisaitl. I think that's a little hard to compare the two with that, considering who they play with. This puck is dropped. Manitoba rings it off the post. Manitoba in the Griffin zone. Postava knocks that down. Shot on net. Griffins pick up that puck behind their net. Shot blocked. Goes wide. Griffins get that puck out. Griffins can't hold it in. Manitoba gets that out. Griffins get that puck in the zone. Griffins at the blue line. Shot. Manitoba's going to pick that up. So they need a guy who's just not good defensively at center, but is good. So he's really good at 3 assets or 4 assets and just bad at 1. I don't think that's I mean, like oh, I don't know. That's a winger at that point. Isn't that's technically just a winger, right? Wouldn't that would just be a winger to me in my eyes? So why draft someone like that at center? The whole point of the center position is for them to be good two-way players. If anything, that would be a winger. But you look at Celebrini and Leo Carlson, like these teams are getting guys who are extremely high skill, but also play a two-way game. Well, we're talking about guys that are top 1 and 2 picks now, Dan, with those 2 guys. I just look at the other centers around the league and one's getting drafted and I'm like, how will the Wings compete with this without their top 5 pick? Not necessarily saying bad defense center, just okay, but high end offensive skill playmaking. They're gonna get Dan. Look, we're not gonna get that via the draft. We're not gonna get that from the draft. I understand what you're saying. Like, it sucks that we don't have these nice shiny toys like some of these other teams that they're getting via the draft. We're gonna get it via trade. I said that. If Steve Eiserman doesn't do that this summer, then that's a huge disappointment. And he should be on the hot seat if he doesn't get us a legit centerman that's the same caliber of Larkin, if not better. Now, I don't know this for certain, Dan B. I obviously could be wrong, and I hope I'm right. But I think we need to stop like not believing that, and I get it. They're not full timers in the NHL yet. I think that's more on Steve Eiserman than really anything else because of the blocks on the team. I really do believe that some of these players that are on the Grand Rapids Griffins or players like Max Plant, Carter Bear, etc., can come in and actually be high impact players, the high skill guys that you currently are saying that this team needs or that you would like for them to have. Yeah, but Dan, Toronto, like we're talking about two completely like different like issues with the teams. The Red Wings unfortunately were able to be really good and then they tanked off. You know, if they were bad the whole season, then we'd probably be in the similar spot. Griffin score 2-0. Red Wings probably would be in Toronto's spot. Florida had injuries all season. Same with Toronto. Yeah, that's the only way that the Red Wings right now would be able to get a top 5 pick again is if all the good players got injured. So Larkin and Sider. Honestly, you would just need those two to get injured. Honestly, you'd only need Larkin to get injured if they didn't go out and trade for another centerman. And if let's say they ran it back. Or let's rerun the whole entire season over. Let's say Larkin gets season injured, done. The season's over. The season's over. You're picking top 10. Well, and that's why I say like I'm not really a huge fan of the lottery. At that point, just go back to the way it was. Do it how the NFL does it. Worst team gets first pick. It has to go back to that. Puck behind the Manitoba net. Griffins. Shot. Pelika at the point. It comes down to Steve making aggressive trades. It's not going to come via the draft, Dan. It's just not. It's got to come via trade. Steve's got to be more aggressive in the trade department. That's all it really comes down to. Plus, getting top free agents if you can. If top free agents even hit the free agent market moving forward. Who knows? Yeah, I convince really good players that could start coming here, and then you got to trade for some. Like, look at the Sens. The Sens are a good example. They've made the playoffs for the last 2 seasons, and they've done it by not drafting. They've done it by trading. And to that point as well, you have to wait a few years for the young players to make the NHL and become difference makers anyways. That's why I'm always hesitant to write off some of the prospects because we haven't seen them anywhere near like their prime and what they potentially could be. But it's always that potential. Like, could they be? Maybe. It might also come down with a little like PTSD with Chalowski, Zadina, Rasmussen, Svechnikov. We just don't have a good track record outside of Raymond and Sider. Dan, I think that we see a huge, not like a huge overhaul on the team, but I think that there's going to be a lot more youth to start the season. We're going to see hockey trades, like pure hockey trades, like player for player swaps, and then we're going to see a lot of the young guys make the team. And it's sink or swim. I think it's a sink or swim season. Wow, this stream for the Grand Rapids Griffins game. Dan, is this stream really bad for YouTube, by the way, for the Griffins game? It looks like I'm watching it on freaking 80s TV. Like box tube TV. My God. Flow is not a good service. Flow Sports is not a good service. Just gonna say that. Griffins almost with an opportunity there. Yeah, this is pretty brutal. Not gonna lie. I'd rather watch a Red Wings game on ESPN and watch them lose 5-1 than. I mean, the Griffins are winning, so there's that. But this is like I don't, this is like 8 pixels. What is a 64-bit? Yeah, I will say that they at least do give you some free games sometimes, which is pretty cool. But still, like these, I don't understand why it's so bad. Dan, what do you think they do about the backup situation? You going Kosa or you going Postava? Manitoba with it. Griffins pick up that puck in the neutral zone. They send it down. They're chasing. Griffins keep it in. Yeah, I agree. No, they won't let Kosa go through waivers. Oh, there we go. The stream's looking a lot cleaner now. Griffins working the Manitoba zone. Shot from the face-off dot. Wow, Sabres are up 4-1 now. That's huge. Sabres up 4-1. Gibson has 1 year left. You have Augustine coming in 3 years. Yeah, Steve Eisenman's going to have an interesting situation on his hands where you got to. That's why part of me thinks that they do go three goaltenders, and it's Gibson, Kosa, Postava. Hear me out on this one. If you go those three, you then try to figure out Kosa, Postava. Then you try to trade one of those two. Then you let Gibson and whoever you kept, you try to figure that out. But Gibson's going to want an extension. It's going to be long and probably somewhat pricey. It's one or two things. You re-sign him or you let him walk. Three things, actually. You re-sign him, let him walk, or you trade him. Well, you can also you can look at Montreal as an example. I guess you can call them rookie goaltenders, but within Dobes and Dobies or whatever that goalie's last name is, and then Jacob Fowler, like Montreal was able to get it done. I don't think it's really like the two rookie goaltenders that we should be worried about. I think it's looking at this past season's mistakes, which were the 5-on-5 offense was non-existent almost majority of the season and heavily relied on their power play. And when that went stale, your team wasn't scoring. So I don't think it's the goaltending we should be worrying about. I think it's the offense up front. Could you get Owen Power and a Gibson and a trade for Gibson? Part of me feels like that the Buffalo Sabres are going to try and sign Alex Lyon to an extension. So probably not. Gibson's protected anyways, too. I don't think Gibson really wants to get traded again. And honestly, probably not. I don't think Gibson for Owen Power 1-for-1 would work. Like, I look at it from like, yeah, did Gibson like win us a lot of the games? Yeah, but imagine if our offense actually showed up, then it wouldn't have like it really showcased how good of a goalie Gibson truly is. Now, if you actually give him some offense, it's not really to take away how good of a goalie Gibson is, but also to highlight, without Gibson or with Gibson, our forwards are able to go out there and score. Yeah, you'd still have to ask him to submit a list. I don't know. Maybe come trade deadline. Maybe I think it comes down to the trade deadline. Like if the Wings are in a losing spot, you trade John Gibson. You go into the season with high hopes that you can make the playoffs, and if it all shits the bed, then you trade John Gibson. Because you asked John Gibson right then and there, like, "Hey, would you re-sign us?" No. Okay, then we're gonna trade you. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Yeah, 10 teams not too bad. So yeah, tell them at trade deadline, hey, give us your 10 team if we're doing really bad. They're not going to trade them if they're in a winning position. Another penalty to Grand Rapids. Uh-oh. Shots in favor to the Griffins, 16-8, while leading in the scoreboard category, 2-0. Gibson kept them from being a lottery team, though. Like, I don't see him signing long term when you have Kosa and Augustine on the way. Yeah, but that no, I hear and I actually agree with you. Gibson is the reason why I kept them from being a lottery team. But if the 5-on-5 offense was there, like Eiserman expected it to go, and I'm sure the team didn't just sit there and say, "Oh, we're not going to score 5-on-5." Like they wanted to. It obviously just didn't happen. But it goes back to that. Gibson would sign long term, and I don't think that's not Gibson's job to look at the depth chart and be like, "Oh, like you already have these two really young goaltenders, so I'm not going to re-sign." I don't think that's Gibson's job really to look at that like that, unless he felt like that his job as the number one guy was in question or on the line because Kosa or Augustine were just so hot. Part of my idea of stepping back was trading Gibson and going with the rookie goalie tandem. You're not doing that in Dan, you're not doing that in the offseason. You ride with Gibson in the regular season, and if you're doing bad, then you trade Gibson at the trade deadline and you maximize that return. Buffalo has Darlene Byram and Samuelson, who had 40 points, so Owen Power is very expendable to them. Because he didn't reach a point threshold? I don't think that I wouldn't say it like that. Because he didn't reach 40 points? He's a defender. He's got to defend. Yeah, man, that's why it's so frustrating. Goaltending and defense were the issues for years, and when we finally offense disappeared. Oh, Griffins 2-on-1 right here. Shot. Good save there, Manitoba Moose. It really, honestly, if Steve Eisman would have gotten that second line center last offseason, whether if that was free agency or via trade, 5-on-5 offense would probably be there. It probably would have been a different story this season. I really think if you just even swapped out, if you swapped out Comfer with Vincent Trocheck, just as an example, not talking about like what would have taken, but just using that as an example, if you swapped Comfer for Vincent Trocheck is your 2C, and Cop is your 3C, your 5-on-5 offense would have existed. I think it starts with center. I think no matter what, so like if you got Vincent Trocheck and then Cop as your third line center, and then on the wing you have Casper and Mbian on the third line, that line's going to score. That line is going to score. If you lock Gibson up and give him a no trade clause, though, then you essentially are forcing Kosa or Augustine out. Other teams will not give them value. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's what Gibson's going to want to be asking for is a no trade clause for sure. So that's why I'm hesitant to give him a long-term deal. That's why I'm saying you trade him at the trade deadline if all goes south. But if you're in a winning spot, you worry about the contract stuff later. And if you don't go deep into the playoffs, then yeah, you just let him walk. It is what it is. I wouldn't call that bad asset management by any means. I'm not saying Power didn't hit 40. I'm saying Buffalo has Dowling Power or Dowling, Byram, and Samuelson. Better than him in what regard? Being a defenseman? That's why I was asking, like in the points or like what, like in what aspects? Because I'm only asking because I don't know. I haven't watched any Buffalo games at all this season other than some playoff games. Yeah, if you swap Comfort for Trocheck, they are a playoff team for sure, but I don't think they are a cup team. No. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that either. I don't think anyone would say that. I don't even like using Vincent Trocheck as an example either because I don't want to even trade for that guy, to be honest. Like that just screams like I just don't like the contract. I just don't. It's too long for me. I just don't. I don't like his age with it. That's a long piece of hair. Manitoba in the Griffin zone, working hard. Manitoba out in front. No one there. Okay, Dan, you just brought up points and then you bring up plus minus. So is it based on points and plus minus then? You just look at what they had to pay for Falk. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's why I said to Michael too, Michael Devolano on yesterday's live stream. That's why I said to him too. I was like, yeah, instead of Buchelnikov, the cost would probably cost the same as Falk, but you would swap Buch with a higher end talent, prospect. Technical difficulties. What are we even doing? I'm live streaming this on YouTube and we got technical difficulties. What is this? All right, here we go. We're back. We're back. And at that point, that's way too much for Trocheck. That's way too much for Trocheck. So to me, if they try to trade their way into being a contender, they will drastically shorten their window and they will end up having to give up a ton of young assets, so it's not worth it. Not necessarily. Griffins score again, 3-0. That's Carter Mazer. Huge. 3-0 lead. Let's get Postava another you know what. I don't think so, Dan. Like you look at the Minnesota Wild, they had to give up 3 premium pieces in terms of prospects. Let me check their let's go to Puckpedia Wild. Like I guess just using Minnesota Wild as an example. The Minnesota Wild, in order for them to get Quinn Hughes, what'd they do? They gave up a first. They gave up a first and then 3 premium picks. And they still have first round picks in 27, 28, and 29. Like for the Red Wings could afford to do something like that to get a player of Quinn Hughes' caliber that they would never get in the draft. So that part, I'll actually disagree with you on that. I don't think it would set the Red Wings back. Why don't? Well, and we have to look at it from the perspective too. I think plus minus for a defenseman, like yeah, good on the defenseman, but that just speaks on Buffalo having crazy high scoring ability too. Because let's not forget that Buffalo was last in the Atlantic and last in the Eastern Conference at one point, and they turned it around. Good goaltending, good defense, really good offense. Like Power has been a failure in Buffalo. He had 30 points, former first overall pick, already 23, hasn't worked out. I wouldn't say he hasn't worked out. I wouldn't say it like that. I wouldn't phrase it like that. I would say he hasn't. I don't even want to say that he hasn't lived up to number 1 pick potential, but he's still a good player for them, serviceable. Is the contract good? No. We probably wouldn't. I don't know if you'd be saying that if the contract isn't what it was. But also being selected first overall, like you're just kind of always going to be poked at, you know? How many trades would they have to be a cup contender, though? I don't think there's anything you could do to this team to make them a cup contender next year. Are you talking about next season be a cup contender, or are you talking about like in general? Man, this stream, man, technical difficulties again. This is terrible. Oh, Manitoba scores 1. 3-1 now. In 3 years, I don't think that it's all done via trade. I mean, you have to get the right guys in free agency too. But then also you have to get the guys that you draft to play in the particular roles to complete your team as a whole. Yeah, correct. The left wing, I think, can still potentially come within the cup boards, so to say, from the prospects. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I think that can still be done. The 1C is the thing that you would have to get via trade. And then the left D2, you could potentially find in free agency. or maybe hopefully I mean, if you want it sooner than free agency or via trade, you don't have a prospect for that. You might have a prospect for the left wing one spot. And then the center you're going to have to trade for. You don't get number one centers in free agency. You know what the NHL is though? You need a stacked team and like 5+ kicks at the can, and even that isn't guaranteed. Look at Dallas, how long they've been a top team. I mean, we could also look at it from this perspective too. Like, look at the Toronto Maple Leafs going back to it and talking about drafts and like high picks and like all these high skill players. Like Toronto, they were always quote unquote cup contenders, but only made it to the second round once. Do you think Bear, MBN, Casper Plant could be top line wing? But like you said, to get a 1C though, trade a free agency will be impossible. I don't think it's impossible via trade. Dan, that's funny that you said that because I wrote an article on the wing center depth and I almost titled it "The Wings Center Depth is Very Bleak," and I didn't, and I should have because I agree with you. I think the Red Wings have a really, really poor center depth within the NHL. I agree with you. I agree with you. It's bad. That's why I think he's going to trade for look, Dan, do you think Robert Thomas is a better center than Dylan Larkin? No, it's not. Would you rather have Thomas or Larkin? I'm asking, do you think Thomas is better than Larkin? But it sounds like yes. Okay. So then you go out and trade for Robert Thomas. And I don't think that's really like breaking your bank. Like if it's like you look at the cost of Quinn Hughes, the Red Wings could give up what the Minnesota Wild gave up to get Quinn Hughes. The Red Wings could do that and still be okay. They would still be in a good spot. Like here, Dan, let me try and break it down this way. Let's see. Like, let's say Robert Thomas was up for grabs. Let's say Robert Thomas was up for grabs. Okay. You trade them one of your goalies, Kosa or Augustine or Postava. You say, hey, take a pick of whatever goalie you want. You give them Nate Danielson. And then you give them Genborg or yeah, maybe you give them Genborg or NBN or Plant and then a first and you call it a day. And you would still have players like Carter Bear or Genborg, NBN or Max Plant. You'd still have ASP, Trey Augustine or John Gibson or Kosa. You'd still have Marco Casper. You'd still have Simon Edvinson. You'd still have Lucas Raymond, and you still have Moritz Seider. You wouldn't have your 2027 first, but you can go 2 years without drafting in the first round, I think, at that point, if you're trading for Robert Thomas. See, now you're getting to the part where you can't say this team is in turmoil, they need this, and then say, oh, I like these players too much. You have to give up the players that you like in order to get a good player back. I'm sure you already know that. So I'm not trying to talk down on you, obviously, by any means, by talking like this. But yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to move on from players that we like. I still think that they should try and trade for EP40. I think the cost is super low. Not super low, but I think it's low. I think it would cost a premium pick. I think it would cost you a first and then probably one or two more high end assets. I would do it for EP40. I would do it. If you can get them to eat some cap too, I would do that all day. I think we see a retool, but I don't think it's like a super deep retool. Like if you can move on from one or three of the Rasmussen, Comfer, and Appleton, if you can move on from two of those three guys, I think you call that a retool. Well, yeah, you can't trade. It's one or the other. You would tell St. Louis, hey, like it's Danielson or ASP, but you would lean more on Danielson. If St. Louis really wanted defensemen, they'll just go trade for, or they'll just go draft the young defenseman. If anything, you can give them Anton Johansson. Yep, I think Anton Johansson would be. I think you could sell high on someone like Anton Johansson. Nobody talks about this. Did you know he had the second most shots blocked by a forward in the history of the league last year? Pedersen did. Like EP40 blocked like 108 shots for Vancouver and broke a franchise record. And people call him soft. Actually, Dan, it's funny that you mentioned that because yeah, people were saying he was soft, and so I was like, okay, like I want to look at his numbers compared to like Robert Thomas, and Robert Thomas is not. Rob, go look up and see how many hits Robert Thomas had this year and his last couple seasons as well. Robert Thomas does not hit at all. Pedersen, in terms of those stat categories, is actually a more physical and harder player to play against than Robert Thomas is. Well, St. Louis is now going to put themselves in a position where we did with Larkin. We're basically making it to where it's like this guy is so important to this team where like we have to make it almost impossible to move on from him. But I think a team like Vancouver is in a position where they can move on from someone like EP40. St. Louis isn't as toxic as Vancouver is. Vancouver just needs to take what they can for EP40 and move on. Yeah, I looked it up, and I think I brought it up on an episode at one point too. I brought it up to Carlo's attention. I was like, you know what? I was very curious because people were saying that EP40 is soft, and I was like, EP40 had more hits than Robert Thomas did. I'm about to look this up too, actually, just to make sure that I'm pretty sure that's true, but I'm double checking real quick. All right, let's check Vancouver. Not playoffs, regular season. Let's go to There's Pedersen. Pedersen had Elias Pettersson this season had 136 hits. Okay. Oh, shoot. Uh-oh. Hold on. Yeah, he had 136 hits and oh, no, that's the defenseman. Hold on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did read it wrong. I always forgot that they had a defenseman. All right, no, he had 67 hits. Sorry, so 67 hits. And then Robert Thomas. And Robert Thomas had 24 hits this season. Robert Thomas had 24 hits this season. In 64 games played. And what did I say it was for Pedersen? $74 games played for Pedersen. And 67 hits. So almost a hit per game. But yeah, Robert Thomas does not hit at all for whatever reason. Yeah, how dare I confuse the two people with the same freaking first and last name, dude. That's so crazy. Literally the same. It's nuts. How dare I? Classic Zach move. Classic. Right. Yeah. I'm not expecting my center to be out there and bruising people up, but that's one thing that Detroit fans keep on mentioning is that this team doesn't play with grit or toughness. And so when we want a center that brings a little bit of that, or is that what we're relying our wingers on? If that's the case, then it starts with MBN and Cyborg Genborg. He might be like Raymond and pass too much. Yeah, but this is a guy who scored, didn't he score like 50 goals one season? Or it was 40 something at least. I know that. Pedersen can score, man. Pedersen can score. Yeah, 39 goals. He had 3 seasons in a row where he put up 30 plus goals. Like he's really not that far removed from the 100 and almost 90 point season. And I've never seen Robert Thomas do that. Robert Thomas is always injured. I don't think Robert Thomas has played a full NHL season, like full 82 game season in his whole entire NHL career. I don't think. I'm about to check that. I'm about to fact check that. Robert Thomas. Fact checking. Yeah, never once. He's played a full 82 game season once and he put up 86 points, the most in his career. And that was 26 goals. He's never scored 30 goals. Yeah, Thomas not really scoring. Yeah, personally, I would go for Pedersen more than Robert Thomas. Just for a few reasons. And it's not like and it doesn't come down to the points or anything really, but it's Vancouver's in a position where their cupboard is nothing. It is nothing. Take what you can for Pedersen now, get out of that contract, maybe eat a little bit of the cap so that way you can meet the floor. You give them Comfer, so that's cap, maybe Rasmussen, and then you give them like a whole, you give them 2 prospects and And by prospects, I mean like ready now prospects type deal, like a goalie and then a forward. And then you give them, you give them a pick, maybe like a second round pick for Elias Pettersson. Now that is a retool. Now that is a freaking retool. Take Pettersson and then see if you can get one other player off of him to fill the roster out. He would waive to come here. He would waive to come here. I bet you at some point he was a Red Wings fan growing up. I guarantee you Pettersson was a Red Wings fan at some point growing up. Or at least idolized Swedish players that played for the Wings. I guarantee you. It's going to be very interesting. If I were Steve, I would be calling Vancouver. I would be calling Toronto. You're calling Toronto about Austin Matthews. I know that people don't like hearing that, but you're personally to me, and no offense if you're not a big Austin Matthews guy, but I think you're kind of stupid if you're going to sit there and say Austin Matthews would not elevate this team. Like you're 100% like I think you're a playoff contender. Like you could make it to the conference final adding an Austin Matthews to this team if it didn't really break your bank all that much. I know it would. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. But Austin Matthews or EP40 or Robert Thomas. I mean, that this team is as close to being a second round playoff team. Like you're clearly getting over the first round if you get either of those three guys at center. Vancouver would probably take Booyam because of the Booyam connection, obviously. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just my thing is I expect no big trade for a center to happen. As much as I don't want to be doom and gloom about that, but I expect that that's what's going to happen. They're going to try and see if Casper or Danielson can make that jump, and if it doesn't work out, then honestly, what it all really comes down to is I think Steve Yzerman is going to put himself in a position where it's going to be sink or swim, and then if they all sink, then he's going to be out as GM. That's my personal take on it. What about trading Toronto's first pick instead of Matthews? What do you think Toronto would most likely do? Like, if you were the Toronto general manager, like, try your best, Dan, real quick, to put yourself in the general manager's shoes. Forget that it's even John Chaika. But, like, imagine you were the general manager. What would you rather do? Would you rather trade Austin Matthews or would you rather trade the first overall pick, which is essentially Gavin McKenna? You're probably going to try and trade Austin Matthews. I don't think San Jose's selling their pick. They have to, but they won't. They won't. They're just too down deep into it now. And like and that's why I think that they trade Austin Matthews. Because they can recoup those picks back. Easily could recoup those picks back if they trade Austin Matthews. Oh, they have a first in 2027. Yeah, they have the Avalanche 2027 first round pick. They just don't own their own pick. So Toronto's really not in that tough of a spot. I didn't realize that they had the Avalanche first. So the pick that they traded to Boston was supposed to be for this year. It was protected, so that slides to 27. They technically and that Philly trade, it was originally supposed to be 27 first, but now it bumps to 28 first because of the Boston deal. That's why. So that's how that all works. But they have the Colorado Avalanche first round pick in 2027. So really they just don't have a first round pick for 2028. Manitoba with it in the Griffin zone. Shot that goes wide. Should talk a little bit on this game. Manitoba with it in their zone. Griffins still leading 3-1. Griffins pick that up in the neutral zone. They lose it again. Manitoba shoots it in deep. Griffins pick that up. Trying to get that out. They do. Griffins clap that one in. Good transition here from Manitoba. My thing is with Line is that I could see it being Tarasenko 2.0, so I wouldn't do it. The thing is with free agency, it's you either try and get those players on the 1-year deals or you don't go after them at all. Because what you're now talking about, Dan, is kind of regurgitating what we've done in the past, is getting these players as a stopgap in hopes that they can pan out when really it's kind of blocking these young guys. I'm okay with going in free agency and getting maybe 1 or 2, but not at the expense of where players like NBN can't get top 6. I would like to see NBN play in the top 6 next season. If he can do it in the AHL, put him in the Wolves next year for the NHL. You have to rip off the Band-Aid at some point. If you get Line A, you put him with Kane, and then you give them the sheltered offensive zone starts like you did Patrick Vanek. Right, and those aged up players, they're gonna want term. They're gonna want term. Like I said, if you can get them on 1-year deals, then maybe, but it goes back to what we were just talking about a little bit ago, Dan. Those are stopgaps from the young players that we have. He could be, but how come he didn't do that in Montreal? Look at how good Montreal is. You think he's going to do that in Detroit? All right, now I'm about to pull up Line here. What team is he on? He's on Montreal. Where is this Line guy at? What team is Line on? What team is Line on? Yeah, he's on Montreal. Why couldn't I find him? Yeah, no, I'm not really a huge fan of Line. Dude hasn't put up a 30-goal season since 2018-19. And he is 3 seasons removed from even putting up 50 points. I would not touch Line. And then I'd even have to look at his 5-on-5 stats. I don't even know anything about his 5-on-5 play. He's a goal scorer they need. Dog, we could literally have that, though, with our prospects. That's kind of like... desperate for goal scoring. Get it from your prospects. I just feel the Wings need reclamation project guys. Yeah, but reclamation projects don't always work out. Like point in cases with the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens tried doing that. It didn't work out for Montreal. In his first season with them, 33 points in 52 games. They also did that in Columbus. That didn't work out. If they don't work out, you ditch them. But like, if they don't work out, then Yzerman's fired. I would like for him to not be fired if that's possible. But like, if it doesn't work out, like, it's easy for you to say, yeah, like, if they don't work out, then you move on from them. But like, then that guy loses his job. Like, Steve Yzerman the things have to work. They have to work. I don't think Line would work here. Personally, I just don't think Line would work here. We don't even have the center depth to even to help a Line. Okay, but that happened one time. That happened one time, Dan. That happened one time. And Montreal was able to trade him because they weren't a good team, even with him on the team. Oh God, this girl, why is she flexing? Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk I wouldn't be willing to take. I see your point, though, 100%. Yeah, and then people talk about like Alex Tuck. I'm like, all right, that's a guy that's going to want 5 to 6 years. Like, if I'm going into free agency, to be honest, Dan, I'm probably targeting just depth guys. Like guys that'll rotate as like the 12th forward, but they're more than likely your 13th and 14th forward. That's probably maybe a 4th line center. That's like at most what I'm looking at in free agency. No, I agree. I'm not saying like if they aren't a contender, then they'll fire Yzerman. But if they don't make the playoffs and if he makes boneheaded moves, like signing players to long-term deals or even short-term deals, like 2-year deals, like if you sign Lonnie to a 2-year deal, let's say it's 2 years at like $5 million dollars and he only gets you 15 points, that's bad. Like that is really bad. And that would fall on Yzerman. That would fall on Yzerman. You don't make the playoffs. You just gave away $5 million dollars for a 15-point guy. You know, like that's terrible. That is terrible. Your name doesn't even have to be Eiserman and I call you out. Like your name is Eiserman and I call you out. I'd be like, Eiserman, that's terrible. I mean, like you look at Vladimir Tarasenko. Good example. Now, was Eiserman going to get fired over that one? No, but like that clearly didn't work out. Like you got to be careful. Like Steve Eiserman was very lucky to move on Tarasenko with giving away nothing. He was very lucky. And the highest player on the team, Larkin, threw him under the bus and blamed him for not buying at the deadline. And then the fan base picked up on this narrative. They're always, yeah, but the moves are always, I think one thing that we always have to remember too, Dan, is that in those times, a good amount of them that didn't work out in our favor, we all thought they were good moves. And unfortunately, they just didn't pan out. Like the ones that you can obviously say right out the get go that weren't good moves were signing Justin Hall, signing JT Confer. I don't like the Ben Sherrod extension. I'll throw that one in there. I absolutely don't like it. You got another 3 years with him. I know the cap hit is super low, but it's like, dude, like you're tied to him for another 3 years. You can always bury him. That's fine, sure. But anyways, the Jake Wallman trade, Hamonic as well. Hamonic, I forgot Hamonic. And I wouldn't say, any of those really truly like they like. I wouldn't say that he choked on those. I wouldn't phrase it like that, Dan. I would just say that like they didn't work out, but it's not really like it's not really Steve Eiserman's fault. And I don't think it's really pro scouting either. Because it really does kind of come down to the player. Like the player is the one who plays the game. But obviously, you look at Hamonic and Hall; those are exceptions. It's like, okay, Steve, like, what are you doing? But I try to think of it from the perspective of he probably thought maybe some prospects would be ready and challenge for a spot. They didn't. Unfortunately, now we're stuck with these guys. And this isn't me trying to make up excuses either. I'm just trying to see from different lenses and see if it makes sense from that perspective. But yeah, I would say he goofed on the Hamonic, especially the Hall signing. That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible. Like at least the line A is young and has potential. Eiserman screwed up on old guys. I look at line A at the point now where you might be able to get one wild crazy season out of him, like Anthony Mantha with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but that's it. That's it. Maybe Mantha makes me eat my words, but I don't see Anthony Mantha doing what he did this season ever again. And that's gonna go with line A. Verana was a bad one. Not really. Ver- I mean, not really. You traded Mantha, you got a pick out of it. And then you got Verana. Verana was good. He was just always injured, but then obviously it was just mishandled the whole entire situation, I think. But Verana sounded like he was kind of a POS anyways. PD was terrible too. I mean, you traded him. You traded for him. So it's not like I don't even remember what we traded to get for him. Didn't we get something for him? For taking him on? I can't remember. It's the pro scouting though. Partly pro scouting, partly player, partly the players on the wings. Well, if we're talking about it from the Confer standpoint too, I mean, that was when the wings were super bad. There was absolutely no one that was going to be willing to come to this team. I think people have to understand that. Like, I'm always still going to go back to this point. If I am a player in the NHL and I am a really good 3C, and if the Detroit Red Wings were offering me, $6 million to come play as their 2C, but they're such a bad team that they're willing to give me the 2C minutes and responsibilities. Or I can go to a team like Florida Panthers who are doing really good. They're offering me 2 mil tax free, and I play in a role where I can actually like thrive, and I'm with some pretty decent players as well. I'm probably going to Florida. I am probably going to Florida. Confer had ties here. That probably is one of the reasons why. And Confer was probably like, okay, like I want more ice time. Oh, they're gonna give me this much money? Yeah, I'll go there. Oh, I just won a cup. That also played a huge factor into it too, I think. What is Eiserman's best free agent signing? Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane. Um, you could also throw in David Perron and Shane Ghostbear. David Perron, the very first time, obviously. David Perron, Ghostbear. But it's been a while. I mean, his best season or his best free agent signing from this past season, so recency, the best free agent signing was JVR, which was next to nothing. Got you some good quality goals at specific times. Verona, Zadina, Wallman, all gone for nothing, and they all had value at one point. And you hope, but that was the thing. You hoped that they would pan out. I don't know about the Wallman thing, but Zadina, you hoped he was going to pan out. Verona, you hoped he was going to pan out. I don't know. Yeah, misplayed with those two for sure. I don't think that's really on Yzerman. I mean, partially is, but I think it's mostly partially on the player. These players got to step up. Like that, it really just comes down to the players. But it's also on the general manager to maximize on your players. Did they just score again, the Griffins? Nope. I think they have too many retirement contracts, guys who don't care about winning, just cash in a big in free agency and just don't have the drive to win. Oh, well, 100%. I think Steve Yzerman would probably tell you that too, and so would Tom McClellan. But unfortunately, they have to keep it professional and would never say that. But they probably think the same thing too. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you're such a bad team and you had next to nothing on your team. Like it was literally scraps in 2019, 2020, 2021. It was scraps. This team was scraps with Dylan Larkin. It was scraps. It was scrap metal. Like you have Keenan Draper getting a contract in GR he doesn't deserve. Maltby in pro scouting who should be fired. Eiserman's brother in pro scouting should be fired. I mean, I can't speak on Maltby and Eiserman's brother. Keenan Draper had a really good NCAA collegiate career, I would say. Obviously, he's not a big point getter, but he's definitely someone who plays a really good bottom six role for all the teams that he's played on. So I don't know if I would say like he got a contract he didn't deserve. That's kind of like saying, I don't know, maybe not. Like, does Arbor Like, does Arbor Wi-Fi deserve to be on the Canadians even though he doesn't play defense like Lane Hudson? Larkin can't be traded because he's from Michigan. Even Eisenman is somewhat immune to criticism because of his legacy. Uh, immune? To criticism by who, though? Like, no more preferential treatment. I agree it was scraps, and Confer Sherrod were only options. Yeah, in terms of like after the free agent year where we got David Perron, Shane Ghostbear, um, all that stuff. Yeah, free agency has been really stale. But it's been stale for a lot of the other teams in the NHL too. Like there are 32 NHL teams. And the fact that they're talking about making it 34, it's going to make it that much more difficult. That's why I kind of say that the NHL needs to fix the draft lottery. Because randomly you could just have these teams like this was such a weird year where you had teams like the Florida Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, um, throw in the Sharks, I guess at that point too. Like you just had a lot of these good teams from last year or good teams from this year or teams with really young, good players that somehow end up with really good picks in the draft. And it's just like this should not be the way that it is. Like the Islanders, they were able to go from making the playoffs for yada yada years to missing it for the first time, and then they get Schaefer, first overall pick. From what I heard, people who watch Michigan was a scrub who had no business getting a contract. I worked in family-run places where people are given. Oh yeah, for sure. No, that definitely happens all the time. But that's always been the Red Wings organization. It's always been like that. Maybe not from a family perspective, but like they always say, like, hey, like once you're a Red Wing, like we always give you that type of treatment. Like we'll always treat you like family. That's just always been the Red Wings motto. You should be putting the best people in place, not giving treatment to a guy from Michigan of guys who have history with the organization. I think when you're someone like Chris Illich, not saying that like, and I don't mean this to be lazy, but it was very easy for him to go to Steve Eisman and others because it was comfortable. It was comfortable and people that he found to be trustworthy that worst case scenario, it doesn't work out and there's no hard feelings there where I don't know, but maybe it doesn't fully go to plan, but I wouldn't say that all of this has gone down the shitter. It just hasn't gone as quick as we would have liked it to. That's all it is so far. Right? I think that's the biggest like out of everything. Out of everything. A good chunk of the prospects haven't made it up in quickly of time as we all would have liked. That's the only downside to all of this so far, outside of some long extended contracts that are super bad. So Comfort, Cop, Rasmussen, Sherratt, Hall, whoever else you can name. If those prospects weren't taking as long, a lot of these players that are on this roster today would not be on this roster anymore. We're getting to that point eventually. We are getting there, though, which is awesome. 6:30 remaining in this third period. Somehow it turned into a Grand Rapids Griffins live stream, and now it's just the Dan and Zach show. Shot Griffins. Save Manitoba Moose. Things are getting pretty chippy here. 6:17 remaining in this third period. I wish they were more ruthless and somewhat risky like Vegas. I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even I wouldn't even call Vegas risky. I wouldn't even call Vegas risky. Like, in what terms are they being risky? In terms of like that they're just trading for players? Every player that they've traded is a top 25 player in the NHL. Like the only one that I could say that they like took a risk on would be Jack Eichel, which I wouldn't even classify that as a risk. I don't even think that was a risky trade. I think Buffalo just really mishandled that, and now they kind of look stupid for it. But it doesn't really matter considering that they're also in the second round of the playoffs now. So, um, like I hope the gloves come off for Yzerman this summer and he takes emotion out of it and gets a little ruthless. I know this might sound a little crazy and that some people don't want to believe it, but like I really do think that every year Steve Yzerman is trying his hardest to go out there and make something happen. And it really just comes down to the other GMs either they're asking for way too much and it just makes Steve Yzerman say like there's like that just makes no sense. Absolutely not. Like that's just stupid. Or GMs are getting better offers from other teams and that happens all the time. That happens all the time. Like like if the Red Wings really wanted EP40 as an example, and then there was another team like Boston. Let's use Boston as an example. Sure, let's use the Bruins as an example. The Vancouver Canucks, even though we have the better prospects and probably better picks than the Boston Bruins too, the Vancouver Canucks GM, for whatever reason, might believe that the Boston offer is a little better. For whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's on that GM. That's not on Yzerman for not getting that deal done. Carlo is Canadian. Yes. Yeah, sorry about crashing your last stream on my birthday. When was this? I'm so confused. Was that the Florida Panthers game? No, it's all good, Dan. They shamed me for being Canadian Red Wings fan, which I think is stupid. Yeah, Carlo's Canadian. Listen, I think Canadians should be Red Wings fans more so than Toronto Maple Leafs fans. F the Leafs. F the Habs. F the Suns. What is going on? Oh my goodness. There was chaos in front of the Manitoba net right there. Honest. All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't really remember Danby, but honestly, don't even worry about it, bro. I have short term. I have short term anyways. Like I'm basically a goalie, man. Like it honestly takes a lot for me, like for anyone to get me really upset. Like it really does. Obviously, no hard feelings because I forgot whatever happened. And I don't mean that in a bad way either. Like, no, like it didn't like, I just honestly don't remember. It's like a good and a bad trait of mine, honestly. Sometimes it really comes in handy and other times it doesn't. Like I've definitely been caught in conversations with people and they're like, you don't remember us like talking about this like forever ago and it like has gotten me in trouble. And I'm like I'm sorry. Like I don't know. Like what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Write it down. No, I don't know. No, because then I'm gonna lose that thing that was written down. Put it in your phone. Oh yeah, let me check my notes every freaking day. Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, don't let the chatters bother you. Dan, the best way I always like to look at it is, brother, is that it's just people online. It's just people online, man. You just got to try and laugh it off. That's all it is. But obviously, it sounded like it was your birthday and you had a couple drinks anyways, so it'd probably make me a little disgruntled too. Not gonna lie. Uh, yeah, I played football growing up. My memory not so good either. 4 minutes left. Griffins out shooting Manitoba greatly, 30-14, up 3-1. 4 minutes remaining. This game's almost coming to a close. This game is almost coming to a close. Puck behind the Griffins net. Locking in for the last 3 minutes of this game, Danby. We got to lock in for the last 3 minutes. You never know what happens. Manitoba shot. That gets deflected. Manitoba still holding on to possession. Ooh, good move. Trying to come down the slot. Couldn't get through. Goes over to the net. Goes into the corner. Back at the blue line. Manitoba. Oh, a little scrum here. Oh, gloves are thrown off. It's going to be a penalty going to Manitoba for throwing their gloves off there. Right? I just feel like I can have difference of opinion with someone and still be respectful. Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's good. You should always approach it that way. Unfortunately, Dan, it's just not always going to be like that because you're always going to get the people. And that's kind of part of the issue with not saying like YouTube or but I think social media in general made it to where anyone, especially like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, I am someone who actually really believes social media, you have to use your real name. You have to use a real photo of yourself. And majority of the people who like to not have decent human common decency type of conversations with people, it's always the people who don't have their names or their faces up on their profiles. So it's you're always going to get people like that. You're always going to get people like that. Somehow you always got to try and brush it off. You got to try and laugh it off, and you got to move on to the next person. You can't let them get under your skin. That's the best way that you can handle it. But people resort to personal attacks if they disagree with you all the time, all the time, all the time. Dan, it happens all the time. Trust us. We see it all the time too. It stinks. It really does stink. It's to the point where a lot of people don't know how to have. A lot of people like to say a debate or an argument in a negative connotation, and then that in them, I believe sometimes for certain people, puts them in this defensive mode. And the Manitoba Moose just scored. It's now 3-2. Manitoba makes it 3-2, and that was on 4-on-4. Shoot. That's not good. That is not good. The best conversations are when you disagree, but you have a respectful conversation and you can learn from it. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you can learn, you know? It's not about who's right and wrong. It's about asking the right questions and having the right answers back to try and uncover where you can improve on your thought process. And hopefully the same happens to that other person and try to look at things from a different light, different perspective. And that's what Carlo and I are always trying to do. Because people will ask Carlo and I, how come you guys don't always have the same opinion? Wouldn't that work out a little bit better for your guys' show? And for us, we look at ourselves and we're like, well, we're two different types of people. We're not going to have the same thought process always. And if we just agree to everything, then what's really the point in having the conversation? And that's what we try to do. We try to have those deeper level conversations and try to uncover, trying to look at it from different angles and different spotlights. And so that way, maybe it can hit home for each individual type of person and how they're thinking and their logic and what they want to see out of the team as well. So that's always our aim when it comes to making our content for you guys. right? We want to try to reach out to as many people as we can and hit different points and different angles and different viewpoints and seeing, what would be the best direction for how this should work. Um, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't even know who Aziz is. Defensive mode is a thing, man. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People get defensive very easily for no reason. It's like, whoa, calm down. I also think that like Twitter messages and like text messages get read wrong a lot of times too. I think a lot of people tend to read things in a aggressive tone, in an aggressive tone. Unfortunately, I've been at fault at that many times where I'm like, why did they say it like this? But then I have to stop and think like maybe they didn't mean to say it like this, and they typed it out saying it like this instead. So that happens. Yeah, the show would be boring if you agreed on everything and you guys take a lot of questions. You guys have a great podcast. Honestly, it was really chilling and some good insight. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Yeah, we try to do our best, obviously. Yeah, we like to ask a lot of questions, and especially me. I like to call myself a question master, I guess, just trying to get to I ask a lot of questions. Obviously, I don't know the answers to them, but it's having that great dialogue, right? To see if it uncovers anything that might be true that could potentially be coming. Where that's why I say, like, looking at the Steve Eiserman press conference, I'm like, he said he doesn't plan on making changes on the bench. I do see a world where if the Griffins won the Calder Cup, do you potentially bring Dan Watson up, not as the head coach, but in an assistant coach role? Because someone like him, he could definitely be getting job offers as a head coach in the NHL at that point. Um, like listen to WWP Locked On, and you guys are right there with them. Oh, thanks, dude. Appreciate that. You have a lot of engagement and answers so many questions. Yeah, yeah, and we really encourage that. We want to hear from people too. Like when we do our episodes, we want to hear from the fans. Like if our line of thinking is correct, or if we like honestly connected with anybody who resonates with what we say too. So we're always looking for engagement from you guys. That's why we make the content, because we want to hear from other Wings fans, right? Like if it was just Carl and I talking to each other all the time, like we're just gonna start saying the same thing. We want to hear from other people. I don't believe Eiserman thought about the bench change. I think Tanguay has to go. I'm with you, Dan. I'm a big Tanguay guy. That needs to go. Power play is just too inconsistent. Their 5-on-5 offense has been bad. Yeah, exactly. The counter argument to that would be that look at what he's given with, and it's like, okay, like that's on like it is on the coach. Like it's on the coaches to work with what they had. So it falls on the general manager and the coaches. So I want Todd to pick the guy. Hopefully, Todd picks Dan Watson. I mean, Todd did pick Trent Yawney. Trent Yawney didn't really do that great of a job with the PK. PK was kind of mid all season. 1 minute remaining. 1 minute remaining. Can the Griffins close it out? Can the Griffins close it out? Carter Mazer will get the empty netter. 4-2. Mazer with the empty netter. Let's go. Huge for Mazer. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Oh, and he doesn't like that Carter Mazer scored, and now Mazer celebrates in his face. That was funny. Oh my God, Carter Mazer, you dog. Let's go, Carter. Let's go. Good job, buddy. One more win. Griffins move on. One more win, and the Griffins move on to, I guess it would be the third round. I guess. Technically, it's the third round. Right? Would the next round be the conference final? No, it would be the division finals. So I guess technically this is the first round. Next round would be the second round. Interesting. The AHL does things so backwards. I hope they have a deep run. Prospects need it. I agree. Do you think they give Kosa next start or he gets a start in the series? No. No, you got to keep going Postava. You keep going Postava until otherwise. Which it's really unfortunate. Like it could be like we could be seeing a case where Postava, like if the Griffins, let's say the Griffins make it all the way to the finals, like it's Postava. It's Postava. And then you have that weird decision that you have to make, like, is Postava better than Kosa and Augustine? This could be Dan. Speaking of swing pickups, best free agent signing, it could be Postava, buddy. Postava could be, he potentially could be that guy. Postava literally potentially could be that guy. Which is crazy to say. Absolutely crazy to say. He's 24 years old. He's the same age as Kosa. Right? Kosa's 24 or going to be 24. Let me see. Kosa's 23. He's going to be 24 in November. Postava just turned 24 in April. But I think what truly ends up happening, Dan, is Buffalo 142. Huge. Yeah, it's really complicated. It's really complicated. I don't know how they ended up in this situation. It's a good situation to have, but I mean, you trade the wrong guy. It could really hurt your franchise. Like they send Postava back down for another year, or he takes a lot of starts away from Augustine. So, I mean, you look at well, Dan, you look at Kosa. Kosa, he played in less starts than he did the previous 2 seasons with Grand Rapids. And Postava didn't even take away half the starts. Carter Gylander came in, got 8 starts as well. So if it's Postava and Trey Augustine and GR next season, I could see Trey Augustine getting 20 starts. I could see him getting 20 starts, 20 plus. But I do see a world where Kosa does get the backup role next season. Like I really do see that. I like if it even if Postava is the one running you through these playoffs, I think you give Kosa that backup spot. I don't know. I don't know. For sure, if he becomes a starter one day, for sure it'll be his best. To me, Eiserman has slacked with the European signings. He used to try guys with Mateus Brome, Christian Juice, or whatever. Juice! And he hasn't tried NCAA free agency at all. One of my biggest issues with the Wings is their inability to draft out of Chicago and Russia. That's not Chicago. That's OHL. Did you mean the SHL? OHL. Out of the OHL in Russia? KHL, you mean? KHL, I think you meant to say there. Like other than Lombardi, who have they drafted out of the OHL in the last 10 years? Other than Lombardi, out of the OHL, they drafted a few guys out of the OHL, I think. Since Ronick and Bertuzzi, there has been nobody. And it's the best junior league in the world right next to them. In Russia, like nobody since Datsuk. No, they selected Booch, and then they have Nikita Turin, defenseman. It's not that many. Oh, so you did mean the OHL, not the KHL. Well, KHL is Russia. Duh. Dummy. Zach. Huge Griffins win. Outshooting, outscoring, outpacing all in all. Good dub. Good dub by the Griffins. Wings have been so bad drafting out of the OHL. Oh, not NHL draft history, you idiot. Let's see. They didn't take anyone in last year's draft out of the OHL. They took Landon Miller in 24 out of the OHL. They took Andrew Gibson in 23 out of the OHL, who they ended up trading away. Amadeus Lombardi in 22. Tanias Mathurin of the OHL. Pascal Zito out of the OHL, 7th round pick. Donovan Sabrango out of the OHL. Yeah, that's pretty much it, actually. At least in the Yzerman era. Alec Regula. Zachary Gallant. Cole Frazier. Riley Webb. The last time that they selected someone out of the OHL and round 1 or 2 was Giovanni Smith with the Gulf Storm back in 2016 with the 2nd round pick, 46th overall. Yo, what's up, Corey? What do you think about picking up Pedersen from Vancouver? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit ago. Absolutely would do it. Would do it. Like, I'm like from a talent perspective, I think Pedersen is up there with the likes of players like Austin Matthews and with players like Robert Thomas, who might also be available, especially at center positions. But I look at Elias Pettersson and I look at the last couple seasons, the way Vancouver front office is in general, the organization as a whole, and his contract situation. I think Pettersson is the one that won't cost as much. And so you got to take the swing at that because of his last couple seasons, the way that organization is right now, and because of his contract. Like you could take on that contract. You could take the risk. That's the risk trade that we've been looking for. You have to go do it. I think Pettersson's the one that you would do it with. Year the turn defense I heard is really good, but yeah, man, like no stars, even roster players out of the OHL. Holland used to take players from the QMJHL and whipped every time. Yep. Andrew Gibson was a decent pick, but gone. Same with Sabrango. Yep. But why no first rounders or second rounders of the OHL, man? There's players who could play physical North American hockey too. I just don't get it. And Russia, like we'll see if Hit St. Louis. Other than that, Marchenko defenseman, and there has been nobody who played in the NHL. Corey, did you realize Pettersson almost broke NHL? Dan going into spiel again for Pettersson. I'm with it, though. I'm with it. I am with Pettersson to Detroit. And since Vancouver didn't get the first overall pick, I think they're more likely now than ever to actually trade Pettersson. Where I think if they won the lottery, they probably would have kept Pettersson to play alongside with Kevin McKenna. But now that that's not the case, I think now they are in a position where they can trade Pettersson. I'm actually about to pull up their Puckpedia because they still have a cap floor that they have to meet, which is like 75 mil or something like that. So going into next season, so let's say that Vancouver did trade Pettersson to the Wings. Let's say we gave them just picks and prospects, right? And Vancouver traded Pettersson, moved on the full cap hit of $11.6 million. The Vancouver Canucks would have $80 million still. They would still have $80 million. Or no, I'm sorry. They would still have $70 million. They would have 70 plus million dollars. So then if you can ship them off Comfer and then add juicers on top of that, they can meet the floor and then they can sign some scrub free agents to come play for them. So it's very doable. It's very doable with a team like Vancouver. What is the max you would give them for him, though? The max I would give them for him would be you give him a first, you give him a goalie prospect, you give him, and then you give him one more high-end prospect. So 2 high-end prospects and a first, I think is probably the most I would give up for him. Maybe another prospect, like a B-level prospect. You would have to throw in Comfer, though. You would have to throw in Comfer or Rasmussen. Or see if Vancouver can eat some cap, which I don't think that they would be inclined to do. Maybe a little bit. Maybe they would eat like 1.7 of it to bring it under 10 mil. Maybe you can convince them to do that. No elite prospects, like we are saying, Lombardi Bouillon, so he can play with his brother multiple second rounds. That ain't going to get you EP 40, I don't think. I am down for EP, but if you want a Danielson or Bear, then no way. I don't think Danielson would ever be what Pettersson is, to be honest. Pettersson has a no trade clause, so price shouldn't be high because he essentially can choose where he's gone. Yeah, but that's then they would just keep him. Then they would just keep him. They would just keep him. It really, I guess it just depends on what Vancouver wants, but I think minimum it's a first and then two decently high end prospects. Do you think Robertson's going to be an option? I hear he's going to for a big payday now. Also, is it possible to get both? Is it possible to get both? Yeah, but that really that's like putting you in a spot where it's like, could you compete then if you got both? Yeah. But you're depleting so much in your pipeline that it's almost not worth it. I feel like. Like, I don't think the Wings really are in a position to put all their chips and try to swing like that to be a cup contender. Yeah, Vancouver wants yeah, well, they clearly want a tank, obviously, now. And he needs a change of scenery, of course. It would be Vancouver doing right by a player. Yeah, but when has Vancouver ever done right for a player? Come on, let's be honest. That organization is god awful. They never do their players right. Come on, let's be real. Come on. Instead of torturing him in the Vancouver marquee, part of my retool idea was trading DeBrincat and Robertson trade. Yeah, but that's not like I mean, like I think Robertson is better than DeBrincat. And is obviously bigger than DeBrincat, but I don't think it's like that much of a difference. But you're not really solving anything with that, I don't think. You're getting slightly better on the wing, but yeah, you're training a right winger technically in Alex DeBrincat, even though he plays on the left, he shoots right, and then you're getting a lefty who actually is meant to play left. Because when you look at your prospects, you have a lot of right-handed shooting players. Genborg, you have NBN, you have Lucas Raymond, you have Danielson at center. Like the Red Wings have a lot of players that could shoot right. If you had a choice between one of them, though, you're still probably taking Pettersson, though, right? The Red Wings desperately need a number one or number two center. Desperately. I'm someone who believes that if you start with that, then your wingers instantly become better. Your wingers instantly become better. It starts with bumping Andrew Kopp down to that third center role. If you don't put him at the center, then you put Nate Danielson there, and then you put Kopp on the wing. The Wings need a top line left-handed guy compared to Cat though, and he is younger. I think that's where the Wings want to put. I think that's where MBN or Plant goes. I think that's MBN or Plant. And those things that you just said are both true. You know, he's a left-handed guy compared to Cat, and he's younger. Yeah, those are true. But I don't think that is. I don't think that's like just because he's 2 years younger doesn't mean that he's 10 times better than Alex Burkett. And I don't think Jason Robertson would come in here and like forcibly make this team that much better than what Alex DeBrincat has done. Like Alex DeBrincat by far was definitely the MVP up front this whole entire season in terms of the forwards. So now if we can have Robertson and Alex DeBrincat, let's try and make that work. Let's try and make that happen. But yeah, I think if Dallas wants to trade Robertson, they want a ready now player back. That comes in at a cheaper cap hit, obviously, than what Robertson might be asking for. So really just depends on what Robertson is asking for that Dallas has to make that decision. And yeah, they desperately need a center, so edge to Pettersson. I like Cat a lot, though. Just an idea. No, for sure. Like I like Cat, and I've definitely thought about that idea too of trading Alex DeBrincat to try and like upgrade somewhere. And it might come down to that. You might have to trade Alex DeBrincat to get that center. Would you put Alex DeBrincat in a trade for center? Which is more difficult to get? A player at the caliber of Larkin at center or a winger at Alex DeBrincat's caliber? Which one is more difficult? Which one is more difficult to get? Like free agency, via trade, which one's harder to get? I would arguably say it's the center. I think it would be easier for you to get a Alex DeBrincat via draft, trade, or free agency than it would be to get a center at Larkin's caliber or better. When are you going to be streaming again? I'd love to come back and chat again, but I gotta head to bed early morning. Corey, We might go live for the next Grand Rapids Griffins game. I believe that's on Friday. If not for that Friday game, they do play again on Saturday, but it'll probably be Friday. We'll be back up and running, Corey. So just make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell that lets you know when these live streams air, when they're going to air, and then when they do. So make sure you hit those. That lets you know when they're good to go. Carmen, what's up, Carmen? Long time no see. Medicine Hat Tigers drafted Max Osgood. As a Tigers fan, it would be cool to see him come here. Is that Chris Osgood's kid? I'm assuming. Congrats to Max and to Chris, I guess. I think Cat is a true top line winger and Larkin is a true number 2 center, though. I think the 40 goal scoring winger is more difficult. Wingers just don't. I mean, like, if we're looking at it from a point perspective, but I think Larkin was hampered a little bit this season, considering he didn't really have a left winger on his left side the whole entire season. You know, he had Lucas Raymond, and then Alex DeBrincat. Like, if Alex DeBrincat played on the top line this whole season, Larkin would have more points, undoubtedly. Like, let's be real about that for a second. They tried to spread the wealth around on the roster. It didn't work. So they need to figure out, do we put Alex DeBrincat on the top line, or do we go on and get someone, or do we think someone we've drafted can play in that top line to help elevate Larkin? Because now it's getting to that point where we need to find help to help Larkin. It's unfortunate. Carmen's just north of Medicine Hat. I lived in Calgary for a year and went to butcher school with this guy. Native dude named Connor. I forget his last name. But in terms of what was I going to do? NHL goal scorers, harder to find a 40 goal scorer. Let's see. We are gonna we want regular season. There were 13 players to score 40 goals this season. Looks like it was 9. Yeah, 9. Oh, wait. So then this would be, 15 this season scored 40. 9 the previous season. And then 18 in 23-24. And then 20 scored 40 in 22-23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 9 of those from the 22-23 season came from the center position. The Red Wings probably aren't in a position to trade Alex DeBrincat anyways, considering that he is by far probably their best player on their roster currently as it stands. Also, I don't know if anyone needs to hear this, but Dylan Larkin did finish the season surprisingly top 25 in the NHL. Actually, no, that's not true. What is that? He tied for 25th, I guess, for goals in the NHL with 34. So top 25 for goals for Dylan Larkin. That's actually not too bad when you think about it. Just needs to find more in 5-on-5. I don't think Larkin had very good chemistry with Kane, though, or really DeBrincat either. Larkin had some pretty good chemistry with DeBrincat. I don't know if you remember the start of the 23-24 season or whatnot, but they always start hot and then they always find a way to slow it down, or at least in Larkin's case. Yeah, Todd never tried Cat, Larkin, Raymond this season, which was really frustrating. Yeah, all three of them started so good. Larkin, Raymond, and DeBrincat. All three of them started really good. It was very frustrating. It was very frustrating to see how it all just started to slide downhill. Trust me, it really did. Especially when this isn't me tooting my own horn, but like I get asked, if people are like, I hate saying this, like if people are casual fans, like they start asking me about the Wings because they know I do the podcast and everything, and I'm like, look, like I like you're asking me, you're not really asking me the. My response is like people will ask me like some interesting questions, and I'm like, I don't think that that's the right question, or maybe you're not phrasing it the correct way, but like I don't know. Some of the questions I get asked in real life, like in real life, I mean like in person, I'm just like I sometimes I do a double take and I'm like, am I seriously being asked this question? But I always have to remind myself that it's just dialogue, it's just a conversation. Try to hear them out, and then obviously, hopefully, they hear what I have to say. But a lot of people like to think based on their emotions. Honestly, that's the most difficult part. And with talking to people, not a lot of people. Some people like to speak with their emotions. Sometimes it can be a little difficult having those conversations with them, though. But it's all fun, like I said. I didn't think Raymond was bad, like people make him out to be. No, Raymond had a good season still, but I think it was just a frustrating season. This team desperately needs another Lucas Raymond or a Larkin plus or DeBrincat. Desperately. All right, chatters. I'm gonna hop off. It's 10 p.m. I gotta catch some sleep too. I appreciate you guys. It was a lot of fun covering this game. Definitely wasn't like any of the Red Wings games. I really don't know the players and the numbers, and that stream was very brutal. That stream was very brutal. Hopefully the AHL can figure something out for them because that was just that was terrible. That was terrible experience. But overall, all right, guys. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I hope to see you guys on the next live stream. That will be on Friday for the Griffins. Hopefully they win it and they move on to the next round. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Peace out. Oh, how do I end this stream? Bye, guys. Love you guys.